All right, everyone, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right, perfect. Okay, welcome to Never Fear, Persevere, Building Cognitive Sweat from the first day of school. Obviously, we're all having to persevere, so this is a perfect topic at this time. I am going to recognize that I am going to share a little bit about myself, and I'm going to be a little vulnerable with you today, because I think it's really important to try to make connections with relationships, even though we're through a screen. Unfortunately, we're through a screen. I was so looking forward to presenting live, and you were looking forward to coming live, and that just doesn't happen right now. I am the wife of David, and we have been married for 29 years. I am actually a mother of a 19-year-old son who is an entrepreneur. He already owns his own business. It's an incorporation because he's bought himself a truck, a semi-truck. Now, what I want you to think about is I want to get a little bit of information about you guys. Oh, and I've spent 28 years in education, 14 years in the classroom, 14 years as a gifted and talented enrichment specialist, and I'm the co-director of the district's mentor program. So right now, we're going through a lot of unique situations with the mentor program. How do you do anything, meeting with a mentor and a mentee, and do it during COVID? So kind of challenging. But now I'd like to get a little bit more information about you. And so the question that I'm going to ask you, and I'm not going to have Kathleen do a poll right now, we're just going to try to do a show of hands.
Or they can put it in the chat box.
Or put it in the chat box, please. I'd like to know a little bit about who is in our audience today. How many K-5 teachers do we have?
Actually, why don't they just type in their name, their school, and what grade they teach? How would that work?
Love it.
See, Echo and I used to work together a lot, and we haven't done this for a while.
I'm going to introduce that fact in just a few seconds, but listen to the boss and go ahead and put in your name, your school, and what grades you teach, and then we'll have a little bit of idea about who's in the audience with us today. I'm going to give you 32 seconds to work on that.
Oh, you've timed it.
Well, I don't want to do that.
Well, you just deal.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on, and so we'll have an idea of how many people are here when we can look at the chat. But right now I'd like to say, what does the word persevere mean to you? Today throughout my session, you're going to need a pencil and paper. So if you don't have one, you can grab one right now while you're thinking about what does the word persevere mean to you. And I'm going to go ahead and give you about 18 seconds to think that through. And about 18 seconds, and so now I would like you to think about, Julie Andrews said, perseverance is failing 19 times and then succeeding on the 20th. And that is the truth with all of us. We are trying to succeed as we are persevering. Also, Albert Einstein said, it's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with the problems longer. And that brings me to what I chant in my classroom when I'm teaching gifted and talented students all the time. It's never fear, persevere. And the kids will chant that right back because they know that that is really important to persevere. And then when little kids ask me, what does persevere mean, Mrs. Allison? I always say, try again, try a different way. You've got to keep with the staying in the struggle. So I actually have a poster in my classroom that says never fear, persevere. I have a poster in my classroom that says stay in the struggle, because that's something we all need to do right now. We're staying in the struggle in this classroom virtually right now.
Typing wildly.
And you can hear her clickety click, click, click. So sorry about that. I've lived the motto, never fear, persevere in the last 2 years, because in July of 2018, I was diagnosed with stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer. I've got to go through a year and 4 months of chemo, 6 weeks every day of radiation, and I did get to have a double mastectomy. They call it a bilateral mastectomy. But yeah, I've lived it with the help of my family and friends. And you can see on my picture right now, my last day of chemo, my sister and I on my last day of chemo, and then my son and my husband who attended a event that was held in our community for people that are working through and battling cancer. But the day that I thought was a fire drill after my chemo, my last chemo, was actually an incredible celebration. Brings me to tears every time I talk about it. But I ran out with my students. Well, you don't run on a fire drill. I walked out with my students calmly, but recognized that when I got out there, everyone was holding signs that said, never fear, persevere, and different messages to me to say how much support I had in that school. And so when your school is your family, that's pretty awesome. So school was my family, and they celebrated right along with me on that last day, the day after, in a pretend fire drill that I was totally floored and still very emotional about. So today, if you have a question throughout the session, go ahead and put it into the chat box. My partner here, Kathleen, will be monitoring the chat box as well as other 3 sessions. But we're going to go ahead and so at the very end, if we have time, I'll go ahead and answer any questions. But I'm going to have my email at the very end also because I'm always available to you. We'll obviously need to support each other this year, and so I will be happy to do that.
Hey, Echo.
Hey, Kathleen.
This is so fun that we get to do this again. Would you like to know who's on?
I would love to
Okay,
know.
so we've got Jill from Woodman, grades 5 through 8. Mona at Chief Joseph Middle School, woohoo, 6-8 Spanish. Katie in Ronan. Andrea at Ovando, love it, out there, Andrea. Sarah Schmill, who is Potomac 5th grade. We've got a K-5 librarian. 9 through 12, Gallatin High School. Ooh, that's the new high school in Bozeman. I think, right? And 2nd grade in Bonner. We've got Drummond all together, everybody, pretty much. Hi, Drummond. And Hellgate Elementary librarian and Chief Charlo librarian. So lots of amazing people out there.
Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate y'all being here. Having to work through this situation, it was not comfortable for me either. I flipped my classroom into a Google Classroom last spring when we had to. But I'm super excited that our district is going live for a little bit of time at least. So I wanted to tell you about a book that was really an inspiration for me in my teaching career. And it was when I was teaching 3rd grade at Brainstorming School, and my principal was Kathleen Dent, right next to me.
I'm sorry, it was a tough job to be Echo's principal.
She just says that now. I always used to assume that she really liked me. But the inspiration came from a book study, and it was called Mindset by Carol S. Dweck. Let's go a little hand up if you've read that book.
And by the way, you can raise your hand over on your participant thing down at the bottom where it says more. You can raise your hand. So go for it if you want to.
The thing about this book is they talk about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so obviously it's very important in this, in any classroom and any day, especially during this COVID pandemic, to continue to have that growth mindset that we can learn new things and we can do things differently. I really appreciated purchasing both of these books, Mindsets in the Classroom, and then what I found even more beneficial for me as a classroom teacher was the ready-to-use resources for mindsets in the classroom. I'm going to show you 2 of the pages from that ready-to-use resource guide because I found these invaluable and I used them a lot. In that book, they have a resource page with this little classroom posters, and it's just an 8 by 12 piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And you're going to notice that in this classroom, we will always, I have these posted, not the whole poster, but like different sections of them throughout my classroom. And kids are always reminded that I want to show a growth mindset in our classroom at all times. Another thing that helps with growth mindset is another resource page from that book. And what that has in it is all of these different texts, books or stories that you can share with kids to talk about mindset and growth mindset. I want you to think about the idea of in this resource guide, there's like 6 or 7 pages with a lot of different text. And it goes from pre-K all the way up to grade 12. So those of you that are teaching different grade levels will have something in there, not just elementary, but the obvious page right here is elementary. I also was just given for my birthday a book called Abracadabra, The Magic of Trying. I'll be using that with my younger kids this year, kindergarten through 3rd grade probably, because it has a really awesome message. There's a lot of other books out there, but this is the one that I'm super excited about because it's my new book to read to kids. And obviously my friends who give me books like this know me very well. I have a very solid program right now. It's called Spectra for gifted and talented students down in the Hamilton School District. It's a thinking skill-based program. We talk a lot about convergent thinking, more of the critical thinking, divergent thinking, more of the creative thinking, and then we use the words many, varied, and unusual for our creative thinking all the time. So those are words that you'll hear in my classroom quite often. You're going to notice that a lot of the resources that I'm going to share with you are actually this thinking skill-based thinking. But I am so lucky this year. I don't get to teach gifted ed the way that I've always taught gifted ed for the last 14 years. This year, I get to go be repurposed, a new word for me. I am repurposed this year into a classroom. And so I will get to be using thinking skill-based programming also with the standards that are going to be in whatever grade level they're going to tell me that I'm going to teach that we haven't discovered just yet. So talk about a growth mindset and perseverance. Live in it still. Thought I finished it with cancer? Nope. I'm in the classroom. All right. Tin Man Press is an amazing resource, and you're going to notice that all of these resources are in the bibliography page that I put into my Dropbox. And you're going to notice that Tin Man Press is one that I have a lot of likes for. My favorites. I had so many. I was like, Echo, you've got to quit listing favorites because at some point they would have to buy every book from Tin Man Press, which I own. But my favorites are Gotta Think, Waker Uppers, Are They Thinking, Going Places, Loosen Up, and Surprise in the Middle. What I like about the website is they give a sample file for each of the books, so you can kind of preview what that book has in it, and then you'll be able to decide which book might best fit your needs. You can also download just the sample pages and and then there's also weekly freebies in there, and so that's always really helpful. So I would go to the tinmanpress.com, but here's the sample pages that I'd like to share with you today. In the books Gotta Think and Waker Upper, every page is the very top a unique way you have to write the name. And also, there's different kinds of thinking skills. Some are elaboration, some are critical, some are creative. But you're doing different activities. So you can see on this page, there's 4 different sections. What I love is at the beginning of the year, I put together a little booklet for my students. I copy pages and spiral bind these pages. And then kids get to walk into my classroom, and I use this as a sponge. When they walk in, they can do any page they want. So they can flip around, and different categories at the top interest different kids. So that's kind of fun. So the Gotta Think or the Waker Uppers have those. I really appreciate those as the sponges. Loosen Up. Wow. I've got to work with some really good perfectionistic students in the past couple of years in my programming. And so sometimes we even call them paranoid perfectionists, where they won't even start because they're so worried about not being accurate. So I do a whole bunch of these activities from Loosen Up that kind of help them think about how they need to be flexible in their thinking, and it's okay to make mistakes, and there are some changes that will have to occur. So Loosen Up is a really good site. And right now I'd like to do an activity, so you're going to need to grab a piece of paper. A lot of people are grabbing papers.
Oh, look at him grabbing.
I know, I love it. So I am going to read you the directions from this page, Loosen Up, and it's going to be called Surprise Heads. So here's the activity in a nutshell. First, please fold your paper in half. Next, fold it in half the other way.
Oh, give him a second. Give him a second.
Oh, I work this pretty fast in my classroom too, Kathleen.
I know, but they're virtual, so
okay.
It lags a little.
Okay. So now you'll have 4 quadrants or 4 rectangles when you open up your paper. Go ahead and position your paper so that one of the short sides is closest to you. I always talk to the kids right now about portrait versus landscape. So please have your paper portrait. And then I would like to give you some directions. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right, I see the first 3 people are ready, so I'm gonna go for it. Now, in the middle of one of the rectangles, draw a wagon. Remember, we're not going for a long, detailed wagon. We're going for in the middle of one of the squares or rectangles, a really quick wagon, just a very simple drawing. All right, I'm giving you 11 seconds to finish your wagon. All right, you can hold up your wagon later, but right now I'm gonna say, oh, I'm sorry. Did I say draw a wagon? Well, I meant to say draw the head of a very funny animal. So turn your paper upside down and draw that. But here's the catch. You must use the upside down wagon as part of your drawing, and your drawing must stay in that same rectangle. So go ahead and draw me a very funny animal. You have 22 seconds. Close the door all the way this time. All right. I would like you to recognize we are moving on. Now my kids are like, but Mrs. Allison, I haven't finished. I'm like, calm. You'll have time at the very end to kind of add some details, but right now we're being flexible thinkers. So here we go. I would like for you to find another rectangle, and I would like you to draw me a ladder. Put it in the middle of the rectangle and don't make it too big. All right, time to finish up your wagon in the next 5 seconds. 4. All right, that ladder is finished now. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Did I say draw me a ladder? I meant to have you draw the head of a very mean person with a lot of teeth. But this time, I want you to turn your paper sideways, and you have to use the ladder as part of your drawing of a very mean person with lots of teeth. So now you can recognize how frustrated my students are getting. Mrs. Allison, why don't you just say what you mean? And I smile and I say, it's really important for you to have a flexible thinking mind this year. And I'm going to do 2 more of these. So are you guys ready? And they're like, no, we don't want to do any more. But they're laughing and giggling and having a good time. And it's helping those paranoid perfectionists recognize that sometimes you have to get something down on the paper, and that might have to change, it might have to shift, but it's going to be okay, and you're going to be able to handle it, and we're going to be here throughout the year. And then at the very end, after all 4 of these, so the next one would be, please draw me a cereal bowl, put it in the center of the rectangle, don't make it too big. Then I'm like, oh no, did I say cereal bowl? And by now they're laughing because they're like, oh, what is she gonna want us to do now? I meant to have you draw the head of a person wearing a strange hat with a feather on it. So turn your paper upside down and make your cereal bowl into a person wearing a strange hat with a feather. And then the other rectangle is going to be the idea of, please draw a table as seen from the side. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say draw me a table as seen from the side? What I really meant to have you draw is the head of a robot with a smile on its face. Turn your paper upside down now and use the table as part of the drawing of the robot with a big smile. So you could see how this kind of loosen up activity would be really good in a classroom. It's also really great for you guys, for the students to have to think about following directions, because sometimes they didn't follow directions and that made it more challenging also. And then at the very end, I do a little bit of a strategy of little gallery walk where you get to walk around and see everybody else's drawings. And we talk a lot about respecting people's work and the fact that this was a quick draw and there was not meant to be a perfectionistic situation. We did not spend weeks or months on this. It was just a quick draw. And that allows kids to recognize that it's fun to see the similarities in their drawings, the differences in their drawings, and it's in a safe situation, because we talk all the time about what happens in spectra stays in spectra, except tell your parents everything, because we want to have that PR for the parents to understand that we're doing some of these really crazy but good thinking skill activities. So that's one activity from Loosen Up that I love to do with my students. Another page is called Surprise in the Middle, and it has the same philosophy. You're having the students, you're following a strict script, having the students draw something, turn your paper so that one of the long side is nearest to you. You're going to begin by putting the letter X in the middle of your paper. Then you're going to bring the left edge over to the X. And so it has you going through following directions. And then it says, surprise, you have just started the drawing of an elephant. Now the J is the elephant's trunk, the U is its ear, etc., etc. And then it has the kids have to flexibly think about how they can make that change and transition. So those are some of my favorite Tin Man Press activities. But another book that I absolutely adore are called Brain Starters, the daily Brain Starters, critical thinking activities. You're going to notice that on this it says grades 5 through 6, but I'm pretty lucky because I use the 3rd graders use the extraordinarily easy ones. My 4th graders use the magnificently medium ones, and then I do save the definitely difficult for my 5th and 6th graders that I don't actually get to teach anymore because we've reconfigured Hamilton School District, and now I'm a K-4 gifted teacher, except for this year in the COVID when I'm in the classroom. But what you're going to recognize is that the 5th and 6th grade teacher, the person that teaches 5th through 12th grade Spectra, gifted and talented in our district, has these definitely difficult ones. So I'm going to give you a sample of the extraordinarily easy one. I have been told never read what's on the screen because people need time to process. So I'm going to go ahead and give you about, I'm going to say 62 seconds to process this one, and then we'll see if anybody wants to share their answer. When I say 62 seconds, my kids are always like, but there's only 60 seconds in a minute. And I say, well, that's great. How could you convert that? They're like, it's 1 minute, 2 seconds. Nicely done, guys. So I'm going to ask you to see if there's anybody that wants to answer this one.
Oh, good.
All right, that was a mother's minute. A lot of people know what I mean by that because my kids are always like, why do you always say seconds? And I say in education, every second counts. I actually say in this classroom, but you could say in education. All right, Kathleen, is anybody raising their hand because they want to answer the question?
Oh, let me look. One moment, please. I love these answers, sorry. I'm having too much fun watching what's going on. Is anyone raising their hand? Oh, no brave soul yet.
Oh, man.
Come on, let's see. Physically, you can raise your hand, just raise your hand too. And I can see, maybe. Some of you don't have your cameras on.
Well, we're going to go ahead, and since nobody wants to jump out there, I'm going to go ahead and say last night when I was practicing this with my sister.
Just call on somebody.
Oh, I think that's so challenging.
No, do it, do it.
Sarah. Ha-ha. It's a bummer to know me, Sarah.
Where's Sarah?
Sarah.
I put my answer in the chat box. They say they all survive, so you don't need a burial.
Whoop, whoop. My friend Sarah has it right. So where should the survivors be buried is the key there. Sarah's got it. I bet some of you also had that. Thank you, Sarah, for being brave and jumping out there. Thanks for putting it in the chat. Kathleen's not working on right now.
Sorry.
Somebody has a good moderator, right?
I'm doing 5 things. I'm trying.
She really is doing 5 things. So the next one is definitely difficult brain starters. And on this one, I thought it was kind of interesting because I had a variety of answers that were given to me by my students. And I always say the answer in the book says, but I never negate that they have a unique answer because I think it's really important to let kids have more than one way to solve a problem. So I'll let you think about this one for another 44 seconds.
Okay, are they putting it in the chat box?
If you can, I would love for you to put your answer in the chat box. This might be a little bit more lengthy to put in chat box, but somebody needs to be ready to jump in and raise their hand and answer this one. We have about 5 more seconds. All right, who's gonna raise their hand and be ready to answer? Looking for somebody. Trying to do Kathleen's. All right, here's the deal. This one was a little bit more challenging and it took a little bit out of the box thinking. And Kathleen, do you see anybody raising their hand?
Oh, let me see those bounders. Let's see. Oops.
I know. I was like, wait.
Nobody?
Okay.
Come on.
Okay. It's okay to not want to answer. We'll go ahead and do this. So how can you cut a cake into 8 pieces with only 3 straight cuts of the knife? So it doesn't matter if you're a circular cake or a rectangle cake, you cut it into quarters and then you take the knife and slice it horizontally so that you have 4 pieces on top, 4 pieces on the bottom, 8 pieces. So that's kind of a really good challenge for kids spatially to think about that one. When I have kids working on these brain starters, I have them working individually for quite some time, and then I let them get together with a partner of their choice because I think it's a little bit more safe to explain your ideas a couple times when it's a little bit more of a challenging thought process. Having a person that you trust next to you to talk about it is important. So that's often what I do with that one. Now I'm going on to something we use all the time, and those are strategy labs. And strategy labs are so cool because you can use a lot of strategic thinking opportunities for kids. What you're going to notice on my screen is I have this problem-solving poster that's hanging in my classroom. It's from ThinkFun. So all of the games that I use are from ThinkFun, and that's also in my bibliography, and it's a site that we're going to really want to think about because it's an amazing site. But what I want you to recognize is right here in the upper left-hand corner of the poster is the word persevere. Try again, trial and error. So we talk about different strategies with this poster in mind. We talk about the idea on the bottom left-hand corner is use the process of elimination. When you're doing a lot of the games, you're using that process of elimination. You're trying something, and if it doesn't work, you don't try it that same way again. You try it a different way. And then, of course, that idea of planning, thinking ahead, maybe even working backwards. We use that as one of our strategies. Obviously, you have to sometimes just do the guess and check. That's like act on instinct, collaborate, work with a partner or group. I talk to the kids about in strategy lab, I actually want you to work individually because in strategy lab, it's an individualized checkoff. There are times where I want you to collaborate, but strategy lab time is not one of them. So I use the games Rush Hour Junior for my littles, Rush Hour, and then there's variations like Railroad Rush Hour and Safari Rush Hour that has a Jeep trying to get through safari animals. What you're gonna recognize is there's a lot of ThinkFun games, and you're gonna notice that they are used with a tracking chart. ThinkFun originally had something called Game Club, and that's where I got all of these tracking charts, which you could just make your own. There's typically 40 challenges for each of the games, and you can see on the left-hand side is the different games that we're going to play. This is my 3rd grade strategy lab tracking chart. So we play Pete's Pike, Sudoku 5x5, but we were COVIDed. I'm using it as a verb now. We were COVIDed, so we couldn't play some of the games. Cover your tracks. is a game where I actually check off on theirs. You can see my initials on their tracking charts. So they don't have a pencil at that station. And then I actually ask them to tell me that I see their solution. And then I ask them to tell me about their thinking. It's really good for kids to have to defend their thinking. That makes the cognitive sweat a little bit more sweaty. And then Hotspot, Treasure Quest, Safari, Rush Hour. So the poster that's on the left-hand side, well, it's actually on the right-hand side when I look at it, says stay in the struggle. And that is in my classroom, very prominent on my door. And I want kids to always know that sometimes you're going to have to persevere, but you'll need to stay in the struggle in order to do that. So the tracking chart is something that they check off on themselves, except for the one that I like to ask them about their thinking and see their solution, because there's only 20 challenges instead of 40. But when they come into my classroom, they sit down where they're, come on in and find your name, but don't start your game. That's how we start strategy labs. They find their name, they sit down, and then we do any kind of a teaching of the game, and then they start working on whatever table that they're at. I typically have 2 or 3 different games going, depending on how much time I have with those kids. If I only have a 30-minute, they get to do 2 games, 15 minutes on each game. If I have 45 minutes, they get to do 3 games. So then they just rotate to the next table. So the whole table stands up with their tracking chart, moves to the next table for strategy lab time. And it's been very successful. Kids adore coming in. And then I have a 3-tier system of support in Hamilton. So that's a tier 1 where everybody in the whole school, I see every 2nd grader, I see every 3rd grader. I say it like I do see them now. Not this next year because of COVID, but just, you know.
Stop!
I do see them every day, every month. So they come in once a month for strategy labs. Then you're going to notice that I have this company picture. This is the actual owner of ThinkFun. His name is Bill Ritchie, and he's phenomenal. I was super lucky because this right here is me when I used to have blonde hair before cancer. And I got to go to a think tank. ThinkFun flew me out to Alexandria, Virginia, and then I was participating in a think tank with them about their education program. Every time I would do some speaking about strategy labs, they would pay me in games. So you're wondering, how did she get hundreds of dollars worth of games? I worked for it. The actual website, www.thinkfun.com, is a phenomenal, it's not working. That's okay. You'll go there and you'll see that they have a really cool section for educators. So click around on that website because you're going to notice that there's a place for educators, and they have a whole bunch of free things that you can print out and that you don't even have to buy their games. So go there. It's a really great site. We're going to take a 1 minute and 71 second movement break. I'm modeling what I do with my students when we're doing Google Classroom. We've been sitting for what is at least a half an hour. And so I really think it's time to get up and move.
You want to see them?
Well,
There they are.
So please honor our time together to be back quickly, like the 1 minute and 71 seconds. But I'm going to ask you to do a scavenger hunt. I'm going to ask you to stand up and go find something that rhymes with blue. And no, Sarah, you can't pick up your shoe. Neither can anybody else. So I say to the kids, don't be lazy and pick up your shoe and say that rhymes with blue. Go find something that rhymes with blue. Your time starts now. Break time.
Go stand up. I'm going to mute.
All right, some of you are back. I would love for you to share because we still have about 50 seconds for other people to get back. So if you want to share, go ahead and unmute your mic and share what you found that rhymes with blue.
I have a screw.
Hey, same.
I have blue.
Okay, so we've got a screw from Kendra. Sarah's holding up something that is.
Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, Sarah, of course you have something that is Winnie the Pooh.
We've got Elmer's glue. From
Elmer's glue.
I have glue.
Oh,
I also got gum for chew.
chew. Yep.
We got brew. Coffee.
Yeah, that's what she meant. But what I want you to recognize is that it was so fun when my kids got up and ran and found something. And I'm going to tell a little story because we've got other people coming back in. Oh, by the way, the minute and 71 seconds is up. But what I want you to recognize is one of my little boys that I think is such a high thinker, he came back with his Lego set. And I'm thinking to myself, Lego, blue, Lego, blue. He missed the whole point of go find something that rhymes with blue. Does he not know rhyming? I was kind of a little nervous, but I said, so-and-so, it's time for you to share. And he held it up and he goes, I have something new.
Oh, we had somebody do that. A new phone.
Yes. I was like, oh, thank goodness. You do understand rhyming with blue. We're good. All right. So why I had you do that was a couple different reasons. Number one, it's fun to see the variety of answers that when the kids come back and share. But then also kids need movement breaks. When we're sitting here staring at the screen the whole time, not good for any of us. So you need to develop and build in those movement breaks to let the kids have to use that cognitive thinking opportunity, but also a little bit of movement. So I am going to share something called CSI Math. Teacher pay teachers that my boss really hates. But I
Don't say that.
Well, okay. My boss said teacher pay teacher has some really quality things on it, but not always. And so,
Thank you.
So 5th, 6th, and 7th grade is the Who Kidnapped the Principal CSI Math Review. It was created by the Pie Shop, PI as in pie. And there are they create a lot of these, and everyone that I've ever purchased is really high quality. So this one is a free one, and I could even put it into my Dropbox. I can share that into my Dropbox because it's free. But you could just go to Teacher Pay Teacher and find it free as well. But what it is that kids will have to use that process of elimination to find the suspect that kidnapped the principal, the location that he was kidnapped or she was kidnapped in, and the tool that was used. So then they give these really cool math reasoning type activities, and it's a math review, so there's a variety of them. So clue number 1, you could see that Roger just ran 5 laps. He is at 20% of his goal. How many more laps until he is finished reaching his goal? And then they have to decide what their answer is. And once they decide their answer on the left-hand side, then they can utilize the clue on the right-hand side. So obviously most people thought it was, yep.
Do you want to see them?
Yeah, I want to hear somebody say it, or chat box. We're trying
You
to
can
make this
just
interactive.
You can just unmute and say, you.
Answer.
You.
You.
I don't know.
Say you. Oh, because that rhymes with, that was the old.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. So then you would just choose the one that you think, and then you'd go back and you would eliminate that, obviously, as the location, because all of these are about locations. And then another clue could be using the equation and that you have to solve. If f equals 4, what would the answer be? And so they will have to figure that out, and then they will go back and eliminate the suspect or the tool or the location. And I didn't give you all of these because there's no sense to have that, but I just wanted you to see a snippet of some cognitive sweat activities that are highly engaging and kids really enjoy. I often let kids work in partners on these because then you have some really good discussions, mathematical reasoning talk going on in your classroom as well. So that is a really fun CSI math activity. I also have loved this book, Critical and Creative Thinking Activities. It's by Evan Moore. And what you're going to recognize is there's a grade 3 on there. They have them for every grade level up through, I think, 6th grade. I've never looked above 6th grade because I don't have to right now teach above 6th grade. So what you're going to notice is some samples. January is number 1 on the left. April showers. I picked 2 that were based on the months. I have these as fun activities that the kids will do during a sponge or transition time. I also have these in a cranium gymnasium. I give all of my students that are formally identified and in my tier 2 programming a cranium gymnasium to have in their classroom where you can work out your brain in a little folder that has these kind of activities, because often when kids finish their work, they're fast finishers in their classroom. I want them to be engaging in some thinking skill development while they're in their classroom. So these are just 2 different pages that are samples. I really like the entire series, and I have purchased them for all of my grade levels, and then I could utilize them. Other categories are like in the kitchen, at the library, a day at the beach. So they're not just always the months, but I did give 2 months right there. One of my other really favorite resources for building cognitive sweat with the idea of critical thinking are word puzzles. Think Hard and Think Harder from Pieces of Learning are fabulous resources. Think Hard is like a 2nd grade through 4th grade version, and Think Harder is like the 4th grade through 8th grade version. And what you're going to notice is they have different things on these different pages. This is a sample from Think Hard, so the 2nd through 4th grade. Crack the Code, number 1. So they do an introduction or a warm-up to teach the kids how to do it. Then they have like 5 pages of practice of that. And then like the word acrobats. Who doesn't love these? I know Sarah will eat these up because she likes to think this way. So the idea of having to have the kids think about a familiar word or phrase with an expression of what's on there. I'm looking at these, and I'm looking at number 1 through 7, and I know some of you are popping into your minds what they are. So right now into the chat box, I'm going to give you about 45 seconds to think about one of those, and if you want to answer one of them, just pop it into the chat, and we'll see if anybody gets a lot of these.
Okay.
We have about 30 seconds left in the chat time. Yeah, I get some people are getting, yep.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. They're getting them.
I know, it's so exciting. All right, 5 seconds left. All right. I'm a teacher that always likes to say, and the book said, so a lot of you had number 1, merry-go-round, nicely done. Number 2, a lot of people thought of man overboard, right? Number 3, this was a challenging one for kids, but time after time. And number 4, safe on first, baseball reference for that one. Number 5 was sailing the 7 seas. Excellent. Number 6, I would love to have this today. I don't think it's going to happen, but a lazy afternoon for sure. And then, of course, number 7, we're all doing this, sitting on top of the world. Nicely done. PAIDEIA seminars and Socratic seminars are another really positive thing that I use in my classroom, and I know that my counterpart that teaches the middle school, high school spectrum also uses. I use the PAIDEIA seminars. The company Pieces of Learning, once again, I'm referencing. A lot of the stuff at Pieces of Learning are really quality stuff. What you're going to recognize is the PAIDEIA seminars are just books discussions for collaborative critical thinking. So they give a couple different book choices, and then they give actual pages in there that are practice pages for thinking and collaboration with the kids. I've taken some of the ideas from them and used them with different text, so you don't have to use the books that they recommend, but obviously that they're quality ones. Those are for grades 3 through 5. And then Socratic seminars, there's a ton of books out there. I've actually never read either of one of these books, truth to be told. But I know that when I searched for Socratic seminars, there's a ton of different Socratic seminars for educators, the Beginner's Guide to Socratic Seminars, Classroom Socratic seminars. But those are really good opportunities for that high-level thinking and collaboration and critical thinking. And everybody sets them up just a little bit different, so that allows for a little teacher creativity as well. So PAIDEIA seminars and Socratic seminars are great word smart activities, as well as collaboration and critical thinking. The more word smart challenges that I like to use, we teach the Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. That's why I'm using word smarts, picture smarts, logic smarts, that kind of thing. If anybody has ever read the Clue Junior series, the case of, there's these different mysteries that are in the story. And so they're really quick to read. When I was having to teach distance learning, I would record 2 of these a week because my kids were like, can you record one every day? And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna record one every day, but I'll do 2 a week. And so then I would post myself reading them, and then I'd have them pause to think, and then they could respond with what they thought the answer was, but I would also read the solution. Sometimes I did a little brain teaser and said, and tomorrow I'll read the solution for the case of the mystery of the ghost or whatever. But what it is it's a really quick read, about 5 minutes to 8 minutes at the most. And then you turn the book upside down and there's the solution. So before that, of course, when we're all together on site, we discuss, what do you think the solution is going to be? What is the clues that you got from the storyline? And then they can tell us. And then we see if they're right with the solution, and they always are. It's really fun. Nathan Levy has a whole bunch of books. Stories with Holes is really cool. Stories to Extend Thinking, Story Extensions, where you have to give them a little bit of a scenario, and then they have to think about it. And then I allow myself to only let them ask me a question that I can answer with yes or no. So like, if we're talking about one of the mysteries, they might say, is it during the day? And I could answer yes or no. But then they say, what color is it? And I smile and I say, yes, no. And then they're like, is it green? And then I can answer with that. So it allows them to have to do a little bit more thinking about those. So those books are pretty good for that. But my very favorite, and I had to give it up to the middle school teacher because it's really more appropriate for 5th or 6th grade, but I used to do it with 4th graders also, are the Fairy Tales on Trial. Once again, you can see this is from Pieces of Learning, and they have this book, and then they have more Fairy Tales on Trials. You can probably find them. But imagine that there is the 3 Little Pigs, and the big bad wolf is on trial. And so the kids get to play different roles, offense, defense. They also get to be a juror or a judge, part of the prosecution. They have different roles that they play. And middle school actually take the kids to the local courthouse and put these on trial. These fairy tales. Characters are developed. It's so much fun. Kids really get into that, and it's a really high cognitive activity because they're having to really prove their points either way, or use the correct, coach the correct person that's going to testify with the evidence, etc. It's a really fun activity. Don't forget logic challenges. Logic elimination grids are one of my kids' favorite things. When I see them, when they're in high school, or they bring back their baby to show me, then they tell me all about the fact how much they love logic elimination grids. And of course, one of their favorite thing is the Great Chocolate Caper. It's a mystery and have to use a lot of logic elimination grids to solve it. But online at Puzzle Baron, you can find some free ones. That's where this is taken a snapshot of, because they have a clue, a story, notes, and answers right there. So you're going to recognize that there's tons of books out there. You can Google logic elimination grids and get a ton of free ones. Kids really like those. When we were distance learning, every morning would do a morning message to my students, and I had 96 students in my classrooms, seven classrooms.
At once?
Yeah, all at once. No, but I had 7 classrooms and 96 students that I was managing. But I would do a morning message for all of them, and in the morning message, I would do a joke of the day, a 5-second rule game, and then I would also do a geography question that I would ask them that day, and then the next day answer. But they would have to message me, private message me, their answer for the geography question to see. So we're going to play a really quick hot seat game.
Wait, before we do that,
because
I just want to clarify, I put it in the chat box, but Sarah answered somebody's question. All of these references are in your handout.
Yep,
and links to all the websites and all of that stuff. So be sure you click that handout link below the session and you'll get that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
All right,
we're
here we
ready.
go. So I can't find the cards because I've got to move 3 times this morning, but that's okay. I know how to do it without the cards. So they
Do you
have
want me to
little
grab
cards. Nope, I don't know where they are. But they're little cards, and on the little cards it says you have 5 seconds to name 3 things. So here we go. You're going to have to type it into the chat because it will be hard to do it otherwise. But what I did is it was a video that I made of myself every day so the kids could just type it into the chat.
No, wait. So when you were teaching kids virtually,
Yes.
you made a video of
Yes,
this.
every day I made a video. Well, that's not true. I took 5 outfits and I went down and in my classroom, I recorded Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Because I wanted to be in my classroom. I wanted the kids to see me in the classroom. And I wanted to look like I was wearing a different outfit because I was there every day. But then I would just post the morning message every day at 8 o'clock. So this is what I did. I said, okay, guys. All right, today's 5-second rule. Are you ready? And then I would say, name 3 candy bars. Go. And then this little noise maker is making noise. And then I say, stop. All right. I hope you got 3 candy bars named
Snickers,
in that amount of
Twin,
time.
Baby Ruth, Kendra. Twix,
Nice.
Reese's, Sarah. Milky Way, Snickers, Milky Way, Snickers, Mars, Twix. Oh my gosh, look at all these things coming in. Reese's, Payday, Snickers. Awesome, Trisha.
So in my video, it was kind of funny because I think kids checked into my video every morning because they wanted to make fun of me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry now. And it's just 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm thinking of all these candy bars. But then another one could be name 3, sometimes they would do specific, like 3 primary colors. And there really is only 3 answers. But most often they were very generic. Name 3 things that you might find at the beach. Name 3 things you might find on the classroom. But this 5-second rule game, you can see has a game board. I never use a game board. I just use them as like we're standing in line and we're waiting. I'll grab this and I'll grab a card and say, name 3 things you can do on a rainy day. And then they will be typing, or they will be telling us 3 things that they can find in a rainy day. They're in line, and if they can't think of it in that amount of time, it's okay. We giggle.
Okay, wait. I am going to challenge any high school teachers on
They're not right there.
to try this, even with high school kids.
And so there's actually a 5-second rule junior and a 5-second rule regular. With the 5-second rule, I had to really weed out some of the non-appropriate educational ones. So the 5-second rule junior is totally safe. Another game that I can put into, I haven't dropped it in, but I can.
Joe's going to use it in his engineering classroom.
See, I mean,
Yes!
you can do content. I mean, you could use it for content as well. And if you don't have the little silly thingy, you don't.
No, they need that.
Oh, okay. The one that is in the 5-second rule regular is a little taller and makes a more obnoxious sound. This is like a toned down one. All right. Hot seat game. This was a silly game. I don't know if I invented it or read it, or I don't know how I got this game, but I love it. In the classroom, kids have their, the whiteboard is behind them and they're looking forward to the classroom. And so I write a word on the whiteboard behind them, and then they have to use the 3 friends out in the audience that will give them 1 word each to help them know what the word above them is. So if I write the word cat above a person's head, they can call on their friend Sarah, and Sarah might say meow. Another friend might say fluffy. Another friend might say pet. But it makes kids think that you can't use a whole bunch of words. You have to narrow it down to just 1 clue, 1 word clue to help your friend figure out what this is. And they love this game. They beg to play it. And I'm talking even my 4th graders and 5th graders wanted to play this because we did a lot in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. But they'd be like, can we play hot seat game? So I have them brainstorm words all the time. We do a whole bunch of brainstorming. And then I pull from their brainstormed words a word to put on the board. And then they get the 3 one-word clues and try to figure it out. And I told them the reason that it's named hot seat, and I figured out when I was giggling with my kindergartners, because somebody kept saying, but my seat's not hot. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the literal thing is it's not going to get hot ever. It will never burn you, but it makes you feel like you're under pressure because you only get 3 words to try to figure out what word is above your head. So I turned it virtually last year, and I would, I'll put it into my Dropbox, but I used Google Slides, and I put one word, and then the next slide I said, brainstorm, what could it be? So if the first word was round or sphere, kids were brainstorming everything that could be a sphere. Then the next one could be another clue to help them understand. And then the next clue could be another clue to help them understand. And
Kind
then
of narrow it
and
down.
it narrows it down.
I see.
So I could go round, soccer, and then another clue to help them understand that maybe it was a ball. But then I made the kids, and this is super important in my world, and I'm going to continue with this thinking in my classroom, let them create. So then I said to kids, please send me your 3 one-word clues and your answer, and it'll be a next week edition of the hot seat game. By the end of COVID, I had 14 hot seat games that we had going, because a couple times I did more than one in a week because the kids were sending me so many clues. Very hot game, literally. Hot seat game. All right, remember to add humor. So the idea of humor is super important, especially when kids are so unsure of what's going on. So that's why I did a joke of the day. And my joke of the day was so silly and absolutely ridiculous, but I got it from the Happy Classroom, from ha-ha to aha, and it doesn't have just jokes of the day in this book. That's from Pieces of Learning also. They have all kinds of things, like I used their riddles to come, I turned them into Google Slides and sometimes even a Google form, and had the kids try to answer the riddles that were in this book. They have lots of think pinks. I have a lot of different kinds of thinking skills in this book, but they're all humor-based. But in the back of the book, it has 30 or 31 jokes, one for each day of the year. And so that was where I got most of my jokes. But in my videos, I looked like a fool because I'm like, why did the students eat his homework? And I go, okay, tell me your answer. And I'd wait and I'd do that think time thing. And then I would come back and say, well, of course, it was because the teacher told him it was a piece of cake. Oh, you guys, don't you just get how silly that one is? Because why did he eat it? Don't you want to eat cake? These were my videos.
Then did you talk about idioms?
Well, I could have, except I was doing my kindergarten lesson also, so it was my kindergarten.
But they like big words like
they
idiom.
love idioms. Because then they're like, idiom? But anyhow, the whole point was every day, parents told me that kids would log into my morning message because that would inspire them to be silly and enjoy for a few minutes, and then get focused on what I'd asked them to do, or what the other teachers had asked them to do, because mine was an addition because it was in the gifted programming. So don't forget the humor. It's really important. All right.
Oh, good.
Yes, this is my favorite game. Kathleen loves this game.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah. So a cognitive dissonance game is a great break, because now it's time to take another break.
We have about 15 minutes.
Yes, we do. So this game I just literally called Stop Walk, but it was introduced to me by the gifted guru. Her name is Lisa Van Gemert, and you can actually Google her, and she is absolutely phenomenal. But it was a great game, and the kids love this one. So everybody stand up. So this is your break.
All right. I'm going to
Everybody
model.
stand up. Okay, here we go.
I don't think I can
No,
do this.
I know. When I say
Okay.
stop,
Wait, I got to find my camera just a sec.
okay. So when I say stop, I actually want you to walk. But when I say walk, I actually want you to stop. Are you guys ready? Here we go. Walk. Oh, I hope nobody was walking, because you're not supposed to. Stop. All right, now you're walking, walking, walking. Stop. Oh, somebody stopped. In the classroom, somebody will always stop. I say, your parents have trained you well, because this is a cognitive dissonance game where you're not supposed to be doing what you're thinking. All right, walk. Now we're going to take it up the next level. You've done really well practicing that. When I say hop, I want you to clap once. When I say clap, I want you to hop once. Clap. Clap. Hop. Walk. Ooh, some of the kids would have walked by now. Stop. Walk. Hop. Clap. And the kids do that. They start giggling because they get it wrong. And then you take it to the next level, and they're like, what's next? And then like, what do you think should be next? And the kids come up with the greatest things. Sometimes they say, instead of, so when I say my name, I'll spin around all the way, 360 degrees. And then when I say spin, they'll say their first name. The kids come up with the rest of this game. And each time we build on it, and then it gets to the point where you have 8 or 10 different things, and they're just like trying to think of this. My favorite part was when my principal, that is not this person sitting next to me, but the principal that I had this last year, he came in and he said, "What you doing?" And I said, "Ooh, we're gonna play a cognitive dissonance game. You wanna join us?" And the kids were like, yeah, let's see them play. So much fun. All right, that was a little bit of movement. Here we go. We only have about 14 minutes left, Kathleen says. So,
12.
12 minutes. Oh, I'm gonna whip through this, guys, because I have got lots to say. Instant challenges are super cool. Great opportunities for thinking skill, flexible thinking, collaboration. And I'm going to show you a lot of pictures that in the olden days happened because you could get really close to each other like this.
The olden days. I love that. Okay. Thumbs up if you think the good old days are now behind us.
I'm just thinking how I'm going to do instant challenges this year with social
The olden
distancing
days.
of 6
I love
feet.
it. I love it.
All right, so here we go. There is task building challenges where you have to have quite a few supplies ready. And you can see some of the supplies are simply things that you would have around your house or your classroom. Cups, paper, marbles, straws. I have a wide variety of weird things in my classroom. Cotton balls, paper clips, binder clips. So this was like the tallest tree in the forest. And then this other one was the, oh, Christmas tree, how pretty can you be? And then they had to make me the most aesthetically pleasing. And they only had a couple supplies. In my bibliography, there is a page that is a great link from Destination Imagination in Iowa. And so I'm just gonna flip through these. This, you can see that they were having to build things, do different things. This one was over the woods and through, over the
River.
and through the woods to grandmother's
This
house
we
we'll
go.
And then they had to go through that and the trees or the forest, etc. And then you're going to recognize that you can buy things. Mindware.com has really cool things called Kiva planks. And Kiva planks are super engaging for kids and a variety of different spatial challenges.
Joe, who's teaching the engineering class,
Joe.
he
Kiva
loves
planks. Yep.
he loves instant
And
challenges. he
Oh
says.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Kiva Bot. So there's Kiva Bots. There's Kiva Bot Maze. There's all kinds of different Kiva contraptions. Joe, Kiva contraptions, really cool. Mag formers, and you can see how I use school thesauruses in my classroom. We use them as weights to see how strong the building of our magnetic balls and sticks are. Marvelous is a fabulous when you give them a challenge of design a slower coaster. How slow can the marble go? And then they have to backwards think about a roller coaster not being fast but slow. And what I was going to do right here, we're not going to take time to do it, is I was going to do a reflection and we were going to do a breakout where you look at this picture and
You can do it.
well, I have a lot more to get to. I know. So the idea is that you're going to reflect on this picture. So I tell my kids, I just give them an image that's not real obvious. And I say, tell me how this relates to your life in education or in this classroom or whatever. I just find images that are unique. And then they get into breakout groups and they talk about what makes them think about this in relationship to education or something that wouldn't necessarily be a relationship. So we talk a lot about analogies.
I want to know if you guys have used Zoom and used the breakout rooms, give me a thumbs up. One of the things we're doing is trying to figure out what other workshops we need to set up for the year. So breakout rooms in Zoom works really good.
And we might have time at the end if we get to it.
Okay, go.
So Minute to Minute Paper Scraper, go to minute2minute.com and you can find a lot of different minute to minute challenges. All you need is paper on this one. And then they have to build this tall scraper. And then of course my kids are like, Mrs. Allison, could we add weight to it? And they went and got some cups and added weight to see how many cups they could add to it. Would you rather? This was my new book. The Would You Rather. It's in my bibliography. Wonderful opportunity for kids to have to do a collaboration. Go to two corners. Would you rather? So one example could be, would you rather find a treasure chest that is full of gold or a treasure chest that is full of cash? So go to the left corner if you're going to choose gold, go to the right corner if you're going to choose cash, and prove or tell us why you're thinking what you're thinking. So that team will decide what they're thinking, that team will decide what they're thinking, and then I'll just call on a spokesperson and see which way they were thinking. And it's kind of fun to hear what they have to say. Another one could be, would you rather travel on a sled on a snowy surface or an electronic bike on a rocky surface? And then give the place where they need to go. A lot of these are available on Teacher Pay Teachers for free. There's books, you can just make them up. Sometimes when I had an extra 1 minute and 44 seconds at the end of the day, we'd do a worksheet out there.
Fillmore High School says they do this, but it's called forced choices. So yeah, up the vocabulary a little, do it with the older students. Love it. Forced choices.
So we were going to do a really quick one. Would you rather start the school year with students on site? That's number 1.
Oh, come on.
Or would you rather start
choice.
your school year with full-time distance learning? That's number 2. And then prove what you're thinking. Yeah, I'm seeing that some people would choose.
Oh, isn't it cool?
I
Andrea
know.
does this in preschool. So I love things you can do all the way through.
Yeah. Middle school advice, know the why. So I asked my Ariel teaches at the middle school, and I asked her to give me some things that I could share at this session that would be, really good for cognitive sweat. And she said, always do the why. Why did you pick? Why? Defend your answer. And then you can have discussions on failure if you chose the easy ones, or paranoid perfectionists. So really good opportunity to go through the idea of process and reflection, self-reflection, not just always finishing fast. Acknowledge failure versus effort, and easy success versus valuing a challenge, and then apply it to other areas. And she does something called a long-term perseverance project. She allows kids to work for a whole week in her classroom and outside of the classroom too, to introduce yourself to Miss Rhodes. Include positive and negative parts of your personality, a perseverance level that you're comfortable with, hobbies and interests, and then she lets them have any type of way that they want to share their project. So some do multimedia, some do posters, some do, one person created a whole skit and involved other people that had, they wrote a script for everybody else. I've always loved the bookmaking project with a local author. The kids become authors and illustrators, and at the very end we have an author celebration with the family and friends, and some of authentic audiences. My 2nd grade group comes in to my 5th grade group, who are the presenters of the book. Really cool, really neat. Sorry, you can see it's Mrs. Holmes. She's right there.
Of course it is.
Wax Museum. Kathleen told me that I didn't realize that it's kind of a, what did you call it? A little bit of controversy right now, but students have always loved wax museums, where they study one person in history and then they become that person for an afternoon. And we've done it down at the local museum. So they presented their wax museums at the museum. Great PR for the local museum. Kids come up with the most creative costumes, and this is a long-term perseverance project for sure. Another is we did ghost towns, boom towns to ghost towns, and we went up to Garnet Ghost Town. So we studied the idea of what was, why is a ghost town a ghost town? And we talked a lot about anthropology and archaeology in those studies. You can see that's at Fort Missoula at the one-room schoolhouse. So it's important to have these long-term studies that are perseverance projects. And then Aspired Classroom has free projects, people. Free, that are phenomenal, absolutely amazing. I can't wait to start the year off. I'm going to start off with Scamper. That's why I put Scamper first, because I'm going to start that off with my regular ed classroom this year with the creative and inventive thinking of Scamper. I've always done the Mountain Lion Challenge with my kids, different levels, different varieties. The Sage Grouse Challenge, they totally enjoyed. This says bear crossing the road, but we did bear in a bathtub, and some of my kids are actually, their pictures are in the book that the Inspired Classroom has published. Amazing. Golden Eagle Project, a lot of voice and choice in there. And then you can see that there's some more things coming. So Missoula Art Museum last year did the museum as megaphone. It was a fabulous opportunity.
And they're doing a
And
session
they're
tomorrow.
presenting.
Yeah.
Inspired Classroom is presenting at this, and so is MAM. So check them out.
And
they
so
are
is
awesome.
Academic World Quest and MPG Ranch.
MPG Ranch, yeah. And you guys, these are free resources. I've got 3 minutes left. I'm going to whip through it. We were going to do a breakout. Take 2 images that you want to reflect upon that will maybe remind you of your year of teaching. Kathleen said everybody was going to choose dice, so then I made you choose 2. So I'm going to sail away every weekend as I
Drink pina coladas
There
with
you go.
pineapple. I don't know. That's what I'm doing. And I'm not teaching right now. So there you go.
Breakoutedu.com has break-in boxes. I just got my kit that is new on the left-hand side here. This is all the things that come with it. And then you have access to their online and kit-based break-in boxes. I take my kids to Big Sky Breakout in Missoula every year, and we try to break out of the rooms. They have escape rooms from ThinkFun, and on Amazon, Exit the Game. They're really good, really opportunities for kids to have high quality thinking. They have books, breaking into breakout boxes. And then we're at the very ending. Here's our closure. I would like to leave you with the idea of fostering joyful learning this year in your classroom. I went to a conference and that was the title, and it just really hit me. That's what we have to do. We have to foster the joyful learning. So the parable of the pencil went really well with that idea of fostering joyful learning. The pencil maker took the pencil aside and said, there are 5 things you need to know before I send you out into the world, and then you will become the best pencil that you can be. 1, you will be able to do many great things, but only if you allow yourself to be held in someone's hand. 2, you will experience a painful sharpening from time to time, but you'll need it to become a better pencil. 3, you will be able to correct mistakes that you will make. 4, the most important part of you will always be what's inside. And 5, on every surface you are used on, you must leave your mark. No matter what the condition, you must continue to write. So now replace yourself with the pencil. And I want you to take that into this year. You will be able to do many great things. You will experience a painful sharpening from time to time. Cancer. Like going
COVID.
through various problems. COVID. But you'll need to become a better, stronger person throughout this. You will be able to correct the mistakes that you might make or grow through them. The most important part of you will always be what's inside of you. And on every surface, you must leave your mark. You'll have new students this year. It's time to be inspired and leave our mark. I would love for you to write at least one idea that you're going to take away from this session into the chat box right now. And then you're going to try it when you get back to school, see how it goes. Think about something that you'd like to try this year that you learned in the last hour and 15 minutes with me. And then I'm always there for you because we're in this together. So my email is there. And I love that people can remember Allison E is my last name, Allison, Echo is my first name. But somebody said to me, oh, you have the coolest website or the coolest email because it's all is one at hamiltonschooldistrict3.org, hsd3.org. All is one. So I've put the bibliography resources in the Dropbox for you to access. Please utilize that because it has some links and then it has a lot of the other books that I shared and things like that. And then remember, never fear, persevere.